Good morning and happy Friday. Welcome to the 2022 premiere session of the WE3Live Clean Tech Innovation Series. Please feel free to post any of your questions in the chat for Paul and Deepak to answer. And who better to talk about today's topic, less talk, more action on clean energy and sustainability than the Paul Lau, CEO of SMUD, accompanied by Deepak Garg, the CEO of Smart Energy Water. Deepak, I'll give it to you.
Thank you, Laurel, and thank you, Z Prime and Jason and the team putting this thing together back. You know, we had a great, exciting 2021. We had so many sessions, and I can't tell you like how many people were talking about the session between me and the Paul and a lot of other leaders globally, you know, participate in that. And Paul, it's been in a year, like, you know, I don't know, like the time passed and run too fast. And I know that, you know, when the last time when we were talking, you were so excited about your board is approving your 2030 zero carbon plan. And I want to make sure, I know that you overemphasize it's not net zero, it's absolute zero plan, you know. After all that approvals happen, I know that anytime I talk to you, you are so passionate about making that happen more faster than even 2030. So share with us, you know, how the progress been, what the new stuff happened. Just I think all audience and the leaders want to hear from you.
Okay, well, first of all, thanks, Deepak. It's great seeing you again, and thank you, really, Z Prime and SEW, you know, for the invitation to share really an update about SMUD's zero carbon plan. And I think I told you earlier, is the timing is perfect. I just got back from DC last night, really kind of sharing our plan and updates, you know, with the Department of Energy and our senator and also our Congress, you know, woman and congressman. So great, looking forward to this conversation. So it had really been a really busy year since we last talked. As you know, our board approved our zero carbon plan last April after 5 months extensive, you know, public outreach. Now, to recap, the plan is a flexible roadmap to eliminate all carbon emissions from our power supply by 2030. And this is probably the most ambitious carbon reduction goal of any large utility in the country. So I'm glad, Deepak, you talk about it's absolute zero, not net zero. So when you talk about net, we're actually a minus 1 million metric tons of carbon when you talk about net, because our plan also calls for significant investment in both building and transportation electrification. So now the plan is anchored in maintaining our world-class reliability, because we know without power, society, as we know, cannot function. And then we also want to make sure that we keep the rates affordable, because that's absolutely important. Now, there's 4 main areas of focus in our plan. Now, the first is proven clean technology. So this includes wind, solar, geothermal, hydro, biomass, and short duration battery storage, electrification and demand response, or low flexibility. Now, the things that currently in our portfolio, we really believe we can get about 90% of the way there to zero carbon. Now, the second, for the last 10, we really need new technologies and new business models, and more importantly, potential partnerships. Now, we'll identify new technologies and business model that really would enable us to work with partners, like SEW, in researching, piloting, and possible bring new technology to scale. And this could include technologies such as hydrogen and methane, along with long duration batteries, and also flow batteries, compressed air storage, and also carbon capture and sequestration. Now, we also identify potential partnership and business model, and will launch pilot programs to test and prove new emerging technologies. And this work really includes developing path for parting technology adoption and scaling. Now, the third, of course, is our natural gas. As you know, we have 5 natural gas fire plants. So this is really about how do you retire and retool those 5 plants. Now, this ambitious plan includes retiring 2 of our 5 gas-fired plants by 2025, and then retooling the remaining 3. And then the fourth area is really making sure that what the financial and regulatory strategy is, because we really need to understand the cost range associated and the rate impact. As you heard me talk about earlier, we're keeping our rate increases less to equal to inflation, which is very important. And then we also need to understand the investments schedule for expanding our existing clean technologies. Now, over this last year, we're launching into our plan now, right? We got a lot more granular in the plan, especially in the area about emerging technology. What do we need to study? The resource requirement, and then conducting reliability assessments. So we're also focusing building broad awareness of our zero carbon plan and why it really matters. Remember, we talked about last year, we can't do it alone. We have to bring our community along. Now, on the technical side, we completed really detailed reliability studies on three main areas: thermal plant retirement, transmission planning system adequacy, and reliability adequacy. As you heard, all the wildfire that happened in California, right? I mean, and the drought that's happening, we really make sure we understand our grid is reliable as we're doing this transition. So this work really identified the resources to replace our gas-fired plants. It looked at new clean resources already planned and the impact of additional resource on our transmission system. So this study, I'm happy to report, we're on track to retire 2 of our plants by the end of 2025. If that's what we choose to do, with the replacement capacity coming from solar and storage already underway or planned to be online by 2025. Super excited, Deepak, that we're going to bring 1,155 megawatts of new clean resource, renewable and battery storage online by 2025. And then we also done detailed transmission studies that is adequately support the resources coming to our grid to achieve our ambitious plan. And then the team also looked at scaling grid technology research, which help us identify priority areas to focus in 2022, most in long duration energy storage, but also we are looking at, because we have hydro plants up in the American River, we're looking at pump hydro storage. And then we're also looking at flow batteries, and we're also looking at carbon capture and sequestration. In fact, we're looking at partners to actually do that with those plants around in our service territory. So now we also do a lot of work over last year with our customers, because remember what we said, we can't get to zero alone, and we want and need our customer to be an active part of the journey. And so we've launched our comprehensive Clean Power City campaign. I think you probably see it on my background, with the goal of building awareness of our goal, but more importantly, why it matters. Now, this isn't kind of things you just drop a news release and people get on board. We know we need to win the hearts and minds and get them to know the why, what's really important. So I think you heard me talk about last year. Sacramento Valley is one of the dirtiest air basins in the country. And Sacramento area children has about 22% more likely to suffer from asthma than the average American kid. So we did a few things that we've never done before with our journey with our customers, including highly targeted listening sessions to deeply understand the views and the priorities of the specific customer group and demographics. Remember one of the things that we said? We want to be a powerful partner for inclusive zero carbon economy to make sure that no community get left behind. So now this work will continue throughout the implementation of our plan. And in fact, we actually have TikTok last year. First time SMUD has ever used TikTok for the young kids and we have contests on TikTok about really why we need to transition to a clean carbon or zero carbon future. And we're very happy to say our awareness of our goal grew by 50% in less than 1 year. And then 90% of our customers who's aware of this goal supports what we're doing. I think that's just the beginning. And then of course, we're doing a lot with the local agencies. So we're working with the cities, the county, the Air Quality Management District, the Area Council of Government, Regional Transit, the California Energy Commission, Air Resources Board, to really start looking at, there's billions of dollars that's coming down in grants from the federal level and the state level. So how do we partner together to look at all those things that we need to do and the projects that we need to partner together, so that when we're doing something, we're working on for multiple impacts. So it's not just about carbon. It's also about clean air. It's all about inclusive workforce development. It's also about jobs. It's also about making sure that no community get left behind. So this is really what we're excited about. So I know you have probably other questions, but this is just a very short glimpse of what we're doing. In fact, one of the things that we're doing now is we're actually putting on a SharePoint site with all our partners to see all the funds that's available, all the grants that's available, and really determine, in what area, maybe transportation should take the lead, what area clean air should take the lead, what area is the SMUD should take the lead, and really kind of working that through. And we're working with the city and the county to really kind of help them look at their climate action plan, because all the city and the county also, like SMUD, has declared a climate emergency declarations the same time we did last year. So a lot of things happening, as you can tell. So I'm sure there's other questions that you want to talk about. So I'll go ahead and go to the next questions.
No, Paul, I can tell you, I think everybody can feel it, that energy when you're talking, the depth, the intelligence, and details, and I love one point which I want to underscore, that when you talk about being inclusive from all end to end, and I know that your focus being always, how the customer and the people of Smart will get the real benefit out of this. It sound like, yeah, plan 2030 zero carbon, but it's a complicated, because for what you just said, and a very intelligent leader who understand end-to-end energy and utility business can execute that. And there's no wonder why you have that hold of every point what you just talked about it. And I think that what we even last time we discussed, and which I love that about the plan, is you made the customer being the core focus, because to point inclusive for every side of the business, every side of the customer, doesn't matter, they're the high income customer, low income customer, building the workforce in the Sacramento, making the new people or existing people getting retooled for these transformation, and I just love that when I keep hearing from you, because it's important for all the other utilities and cities and counties when they're building the plan for their decarbonization. They all have to go in that depth. It's, to your point, it's not about putting a plan, but execution is important. So how, for sure, I know a lot of utilities are reaching out to you, how you are sharing that, all the detail of the plan in your context to other utilities, and what are the 2 or 3 things you think they can learn and they have to focus on when they're putting their decarbonization plan in front of them,
So Deepak, I think that's a great question. I think there's a few things that I think makes our plan different. I think, you heard me mention before, that our goal of absolute zero emissions in our power supply by 2030 is the most ambitious of any large utility in the US. But you heard me talk about multiple times, right? Our plan is much more than that. It will deliver a far-reaching benefit, including cleaner air and better public health outcomes. And more importantly, more equitable outcomes for communities that haven't typically had a voice in the decision that impact them. It'll bring clean tech jobs, skilled laborers, and inclusive workforce development. So that's why it's so important for us to partner with the community partners, with the unions, right? With the folks who are bringing in new technologies and have funding, with the private partners. But really, our vision is to become a powerful partner to an inclusive zero carbon economy. And the word inclusive is important. I think this is really what's so unique about our plan, right? We are approaching our goal through an equity lens to ensure no community left behind. And if we don't bring all our customer and community along as we pursue a zero carbon economy, we will have failed. So this is definitely something that, that is actually top on our mind. So in our company, we talk about the absolute zero is what we accomplish. The how is through diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. So this is a regional effort, and hopefully this message gets carried across, not just for our utility, not our region, but really the whole US and hopefully globally. So I'm really proud of the workforce development element of our plan. So we're pursuing several through something we call the Sustainable Community Programs. I think we're the only utility right now, and we're actually sharing with the nation about what we call the heat map, right? We actually look at all the disadvantaged community in town, all the resources, the requirement that they need to do to kind of bring them, to kind of join on this journey. So one thing that we're doing, we have something called the Energy Career Pathway. Program educates adults 18 and up on hands-on technical skills needed to work in the solar energy field. We have our Mobility Advanced Manufacturing Career Pathway program. That's going to prepare students for careers in advanced manufacturing as a precursor to careers in the fledgling clean energy technology sector. And we're very proud, as you know, Deepak, thank you. You're also a partner, also a member of the California Mobility Center, right? Which is a public-private partnership to advance mobility, but advance it in a way that is very inclusive. So as I mentioned, I think making sure we bring all customer along is critical. So I think this is one thing that I think all utilities should do. So for example, our plan, right? It took us 5 months. We spent 5 months, dozens of community meetings, hundreds of customers getting on and give us input, what they like about the plan, what they don't like about the plan, to get the buy-in. So I think this is why extensive community outreach as we develop the zero carbon plan is so important. And we are continue to be engaging with them and having listening session with them. You know, what 8 years seems like a very short window, but we know plenty will change between now and then, especially when it comes to technology. So I think our roadmap is flexible. I think that's one of the things that I want to make sure that people know, that even though, yes, we think we can get 90% of the way there and we're counting on new technologies, but we know things will change, right? We know the plans would change. So that's why it's so important. But it's also important to put the line in the sand. So in fact, one of the things that we're doing this year is updating. We're going to go to CEC and update our 2030 zero carbon plan as part of our official integrated resource plan. Because what we have right now filed is a plan that we filed in 2019 that was going to get to net zero by 2040. So this is really what this is. So I think the other piece is really, really important too, is that it's getting the message out. I think all of us need to get the message out, right, about what the industry is doing. So I think, I was very happy that was invited last year to testify before the House Select Committee on climate crisis. And the topic was making the case for climate action, creating new jobs, and catalyzing economic growth. So it's not just because you go on renewable, you automatically, it's going to be detrimental to your, to your economy and detrimental to the jobs. So we really think is a great opportunity to share the details of our plan. I talked about how our plan move away to just carbon reduction by all the stuff about having multiple impact, and really also be inclusive, bringing the historic underserved communities along. I think one of the committee members, Congressman Mike Levine, said he would like to see the entire committee visit Sacramento to get a closer look at our efforts. I think this is the part I think is very important. The more people jump on, the more companies comes on, the more utilities comes on, the more people is aware of what we're trying to accomplish. I think it's a way for us, to build that momentum, to build that success. And in December, Energy Secretary Granholm visited SMUD to visit our new utility scale battery storage project, which I know Deepak, right? Which is the first of its kind. So Electrify America was installing DC fast chargers in the Sacramento area. So they were going to put batteries, for rate and demand arbitrage. But we said, what? Instead of doing that, why don't you co-invest with us in areas that, put the batteries in where the grid actually can benefit. We can use it for training, for future generations of people working on batteries and charging infrastructure. And so we have created something called Storage Share. That Electrify America was the first customer, and it bought a good chunk of our 4 megawatt plant that we did. And so I think this is really where, now with regard the question about what other utilities can do to implement what SMUD's doing, first of all, I think we'll start by saying this is SMUD's plan. We're community owned, not for profit. So which shapes our approach to everything that we do. So now we know there's recognition across the country that urgent action is needed to fight climate change. And we approach everything through a local lens. So a few takeaways I think are relevant. We know where you're located or what your generation mix is. I think the sooner you start, the easier it is. We've always taken the position that we'd rather chart our own course than have band-aids imposed on us that might or may not make sense for our customers and our operations. And you need to deeply understand what's important to your customers. I can't stress this enough. Now, we know reliability and affordability are critical to our customers, but there's also overwhelming support, SMUD being an environmental leader. And then, number one, keep the lines of communication with your customers open along the way. I can't stress it enough. Communicate, communicate, communicate. And I think the concept of partnership is one that is relevant to other utilities, regardless of the location or the current power mix. I think that's especially true for smaller utilities who doesn't have all the resources. So they really need to partner with other utilities, with the industry, with the private sector, with the federal government to make it happen. So it's very similar, right? In terms of, in a similar vein to partner, there's a significant opportunity for external and government fundings for clean energy initiatives, which can lessen the cost and kind of de-risk the utility for taking actions. So I don't think the world is looking for utility to solve the problem ourselves. I think which is why partnering can be so valuable to maximizing the benefit of our limited resources. And SMUD has consistently set bold targets when it comes to the environmental leadership and decarbonization as organizations, and we're better for it. And our customers are too. So we, as you know, we're the first one that to have the 20 and 33% RPS adopted before this became a state mandate. We have, our energy efficiency reduction goals is 50% better than the state mandate. We've been reducing our load 1.5% per year through energy efficiency. And some year we reduce it to 2%. So and we can continue thinking about how do you actually best benefit the community and benefit the customers. So I know that's a little bit long answer, but I think it's important for other utilities, to take a look at and learn from each other.
It is very important, and I cannot overemphasize, on the relationship between the and the people, and like we call people customers with the utilities, because I think in last 1.5 years, 2 years, people realized because of the COVID, they were sitting at home, working from home. They realized the fact how much the power and water is important for their life, and I feel that this is the first time we also collectively seen the people outreach is happening to know more about how the energy companies operate, what they can do, and that relationship, is going definitely more and more deeper. And the digital channels are really helping across the board, because definitely across the board, what we've seen is the digital transformation was a #1 key and #1 trend across the board. And I'll just share with you, just like, because we talked about last time, in last 14 months, we added 600 million people on our platform additional, globally. And it's amazing.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and I think I can tell you, Paul, it's amazing to see how much people are active to connect, not only to know what's going on, but at the same time, how they can contribute to the goal is pretty much, I love that when you said that 2030 zero carbon plan, it's not only your plan and the SMART team plan. And I think you made those inclusive to the people of the SMART and the Sacramento. And I think I feel that trend is moving more faster than anybody else, So just a little bit highlight on, how you see it, the digital transformation and digitalization across the board is really helping you or will be helping you, to achieve and executing your goal for your 2030 vision for this, zero carbon,
I think that's a great question, Deepak. And as you know, the pandemic, everybody knows how much, you need to be digitally connected. And so I think SMUD, we're very fortunate, from the grid side that we were able to get our grant, back about 10 years ago, that we were able to really kind of advance our distribution systems to understand, put smart meters in every house. So we know exactly, what you're using, we know do you have power or not. So I think what it is that because we're not, we're community owned and not for profit, it means our customers are heart of everything that we do. So digitalization is driving the customer experience for SMUD. They're used to interacting with companies like Amazon and Apple, and we know we need to keep pace. So the majority of customers want to interact with us online. So over the past several years, we've added extensive digital resources. Some highlight include the SMUD app, which customers can view and pay the bills, report outages, and receive usage and cost notifications. Customer can do most transactions on our websites, including starting and stopping transferring services and signing up for payment options. And we have a range of online tools to help customer make informed choices, including our PV estimators, our photovoltaic. So customer can understand the cost and benefit of going solar, and the EV, electric vehicle estimator, for customers considering buying or leasing electric vehicles. I think technology is making it easier for customer to adopt, I'm going to say, climate-friendly technologies. For example, we offer instant rebate on our smart online energy store for things like smart thermostats. Customer can find an electrician, really, to install on our website to install the EVs. Now, when it comes to zero carbon, I think EVs are perfect examples of the evolution of the customer utility partnership, with digitalization playing an important role. Now, customers are used to filling their vehicles whenever they need it, based on what's convenient on the schedule and travel pattern. But you think about the expected growth of electric vehicles, which for us in California, right? We have a mandate to go to 5 million electric vehicles by 2030. And Smut's share of that is 300,000. Right now, we have about 22,000 electric vehicles. That's more than a 10-time fold. And so you can understand the impact, right? A car could also be a load and also be a generator. So you can imagine, if you don't have the digital connectedness in terms of how to best advise people to manage charging, it could be a huge benefit to the grid. It could be a huge impact to the grid. So that's why our carbon plan has been the digitalization and making sure things, you still actually give people information to how to best optimize the lifestyle that they want, but also have information that you can bring the benefit of it and so in a way that is as beneficial for them. And the earlier you build this relationship, the better. And I don't think there's any other way to do it, quite honestly, without digitalization. So I'm very happy to Smut, we were able to move on the smart grid side, about 12 years ago. We're well connected with our customer. I know, Deepak, we're actually working with SDW on a commercial portal about really kind of bring all those new concepts, right? And new customer interactions into the customer's daily life, but do it in a way that benefits their lifestyle, their choices, but also giving them understanding how their behavior can help our progress toward absolute zero, or how it can actually impact in a negative way. So I think that's, to me, digitalization is where the world's going. You talk about AI, artificial intelligence, business intelligence, and I think grid intelligence. I think something we've talked about before, Deepak, many times, right? You need to have a customer 360. You need to understand how the customers engage with you to intersect with what we call grid 360, how the grid is actually interactive, because whether you like it or not, customer is part of the solution now, and they have to be part of the solution, and they have to partake in any path that we're going to do that.
Well, I can more agree than what you already overemphasized, for all the good reasons. I can tell you in last 24 months, we've seen so much noise in the market, for good or bad reasons. And I should say a lot of great reasons, but the bad reasons, a lot of people start talking the digital, platforms, the digital technology, but they don't understand the depth of where it is impact. And when we talk about the industry, which is energy and utilities, it's very deep when we talk about grid to the customer, and it has to be connected. So I love that, part of what you've been talking, and I think that's one of the biggest variability when we talk in the context of the all the EV, which is going to bring it to the grid. There is no way we can exclude or even think about 0.001% the customer not being in the center. And because the customer being in the center, because they're making the choice, or they are creating that profile of demand or supply, because to your point, I love that when you made that, that same car will become the two-way, have the storage at the same time, will be consuming and destabilize the grid, if we don't do it right, collectively. So definitely the AI and machine learning and data will be playing, and is already playing a big role, and to do the grid management as well as the customer management too.
Yeah. So I think, Deepak, I think that is a very, I think a very keen observation, right? What we just talked about, managed charging. So think about everybody talking about now solar, at least in California, right? There's abundance of solar, but unfortunately the solar doesn't shine in the wintertime, and the solar doesn't shine when the peak's coming about 6 to 8 o'clock at night, right? Solar generation. So if you have a storage there, you can actually maximize the integration of renewables. Sure. And take advantage of the grid, when you have excess renewables, and discharge into the grid, when the grid does actually need the power when solar goes down. So think about, you hear about, the Powerwall, right? You hear about, having storage available, for not only for integration of renewables, but for resiliency. So think about what is the biggest battery that you have? It's your car. I know you do. I know we both do, right? You have a Model S, I have a Model 3, right? And those is like, I have a 75 kilowatt hour battery pack, that's actually sits on my garage, 99%, 95% of the time. And you have a 100 kilowatt hour pack that's sitting on yours and you heard about, Ford F-150, Ford coming on, right? That you can power your house for 3 days on average. So my guess is that you're going to have a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack, right? For the Ford F-150. So it's really changing. You're absolutely right, Deepak. It's absolutely changing that relationship with the grid and the customer because of new technology. So without managed charging, right? Without having all those interconnectedness that you have from every single cars that you have out there, communicating with the utility on the network to optimize the grid every 4 seconds. I think people don't realize, I know we talk about it all the time, right? People don't realize that the power grid is managed up and down real time every 4 seconds. The generation ramping up, ramping down every 4 seconds. Now you can have millions of endpoints, literally millions of endpoints between your smart thermostat, between your smart appliances, between your electric vehicles, your solar, and all those have to synchronize in order for you to get to the future that we all want. And so without digitization, without partnership, without the customer involvement, you're not going to get there.
No, 100%. And I know that we're going to be running short of the time because I love keep talking to you. You know that, they'll end up having the full day on these topics because the complexity and the impact of this particular point we are talking about, the energy and sustainability, is huge. So my last point I really would like to know, because I know that you are very heavily involved in your mindset and the smart for a community partnership, you are chairing then, the whole California Mobility Center.
Yes.
Just a little bit highlight on that, as you are doing all that from a smart standpoint, California Mobility Center standpoint, what's your plan pretty much from when we talk about e-mobility, fleet electrifications and all?
Yes, so I'm very happy to report, right, Deepak, that we were able to launch our California Mobility Center last year, which is a public-private partnership, right? That we, in its full vision, would bring probably billions of dollars of investment into the Sacramento region. So in fact, it's 1 year anniversary, March 17th, right? So that now the business we have open, it's a 25,000 square foot manufacturing and prototyping in our depot park in a promise zone. So even these, you talk about, right, how are we being very intentional? So we actually place that facility in a disadvantaged community, and that's why we're attracting. So very happy to report now that we have 47 industry members that has joined. And we have about more than a couple thousand what we call clients, right? That is actually working with the California Mobility Center to hook up between the OEMs and people who's got great business models and the people who need to use it. So prime example, right? SMUD, we have partnered with Zeus, which is a electric vehicle manufacturer in the US for class 3, 4, and 5. And SMUD has bought the first 5 prototype that is going to be custom built for the electric utilities for use and actually test in the field in terms of, and then if that works, then how do you go to scale, right? How do you get other people to do it? So I think that is probably one of the ones that, and then besides just bringing them in from a technology perspective, we're also working with them, not Zeus, but the California Mobility Center to create training programs. So we were able to get about $1.4 million workforce development CARES Act from the city. We just got another $2 million for to invest on what we call the ramp up factory. And then we also really, the more importantly, is now thinking about how do you, when you transition, right, Sacramento to go from 25,000 electric vehicles to 300,000, what is all the workforce that you need to do all the charging stations that you need to put on, right? All the battery stations that you need to put on, and all the PV, EVs installation that you have, in the region. So we're bringing those partnerships in, but more importantly, we're also bringing new business models in, like new policies. So a lot of times, we hear from our partners from across the globe, California kind of is an epicenter for EV policies, right? And I'm going to say progressive climate policies. So they really want to know, okay, when you roll those policies out, how does it actually impact your community? How does it actually impact the customer? What is acceptance? And so we've been working with them to say, well, you want to come to the CMC and actually we'll put you in touch, right? The kind of one-stop shop, all the rules and regulations and the jurisdiction that you need to go through to take your idea from idea, right? Or the prototyping to having installation and then having it roll out and actually understand what the impact is. And then the other couple really big partnership that we're doing too for the transportation sector is that, we have a work with our regional transits, our Sacramento Area Council of Governments, and also the Air Quality District, what we call the 4 agencies, to develop a really comprehensive regional funding priorities for zero emissions vehicle deployment. And then we're also partnering, as you heard me earlier, the city and the county really to start actually having what is their grant from both from a federal and state level to build alignment, with the government efforts over there. And then we're also developing three-party, what we call electrification MOUs. So we have actually worked with the city and the county to really help them about if they really want to advance building electrification, what are some of the barriers, what are some of the challenges the customer is going to see as they roll out those ordinances. And then, of course, our Shine Award, and what we call a Shine Award for our sustainable community, is our signature program. And we've invested a lot about how do you actually get those local nonprofits and those agencies to come partake in this workforce training and this development that we're talking about. So I think exciting times. I mean, I think, certainly, you're hearing a lot about the things that we're doing, the partnership that we're building. Certainly the California Mobility Center. In fact, I say March 17th, I think a lot of invitation has been sent out, is our 1-year anniversary. I think the lieutenant governor is going to speak there, a lot of our dignitaries, and then also really about how do you use Sacramento as I'm going to say a beta site, right? Or this is a place that you want to attract people who has similar interests or similar, ambitions to really transition their organization or their region, and how did they partake in this kind of, I want to say, zero carbon economy transition. And I know we want to leave some time for questioning, so I want to make sure that we leave some time for that.
No, for sure. I just want to definitely thank you for all these insight, and I think a lot of people on the call and after this live session, they will be definitely watching. It's a most amazing time. What we talk today is in the future what we are getting into, and this is running more faster than we all think. The transformation of the energy is happening too fast for all of us, and I think we have to be focused. As you said, we have to have a great plan, and we have to have a plan with a fully inclusive from end to end rather than disconnected mode, and should have digital transformation. Customer and utilities are in the focus, in the nucleus, to make this happen. So I'm really happy, for me, first of all, hearing from you again, and listening to all the points, and discussing with you all the great topic, and looking forward. And I will give it to Laurel, she's on the call to take over the session, and if somebody have questions, we love to answer, or we can kind of take it from here if the time permits.
Thank you, Deepak. What an inspiring and valuable conversation. Paul, I love how you talk about how SMUD's zero carbon by 2030 plan is not just about climate change, it's about clean air, inclusive economic development, and the economic vitality of your region in California. Audience members, to stay up to date on all things SMUD, check out their website with their detailed, ambitious plan, and follow Paul on social media as well as SMUD on TikTok. I think you were one of the first American utilities to have a TikTok. And we hope to see you again next week on Thursday as we talk with another utility trailblazer, Linda Mattis of Alliant Energy.
So Laura, does anyone have any questions, or are we running out of time?
I think we had one question, Paul. I see that. Okay, this question from Steve. Hi, Paul. How does the current volatility of energy pricing impact your zero emission plan, especially with the impact on the customer bill?
So one of the things that we actually look at, I think like most utility, right? We do quite a bit of hedging. So we actually look ahead and buy. So what's happening right now doesn't have a big impact on what our current portfolio is, because we already hedged and actually bought contracts ahead of time. So just give you a case in point. So for example, for 2022, our rate increases is only 1.5%. And you see inflation right now is probably hitting 7%. And then next year, we've committed to 2% increase. Is because of the fact that we spent a lot of time looking at what the future forecast of fuel is. How do you actually hedge against it so the customer doesn't feel every time, when it's disrupted in the market, they see the bill goes up and the bill goes down. So we heard from our customers, they love SMUD to do the kind of I'm going to say bill smoothing for them, because we don't really have, like some utilities do, a fuel pass through. So, if the fuel, like for example, what happened in Hawaii, right? When Fukushima happened and there's a run on the oil to power plants, rates shot up 70%. So we don't do that. So we actually look ahead, we actually manage an arbitrage, on behalf of our customers. So we're not seeing right now any immediate impact on what the change in the fuel prices are. So it actually give us time really kind of to plan it out. If the price continue to be going up, what is the best ways for us to do it? And one of the interesting thing that for me, SMUD, we in a sense kind of uniquely situated in California. We run our own balancing authority, so we're not part of the California Independent System Operator. So, but we participate in their market. We participate in the energy and balance market, and then we also working with them on the enhanced day-ahead market. But we also have access to the Northwest Hydro with our transmission. So we actually try to do, that whole portfolio management and hedging management, so that we don't have, whenever there's a sudden interruptions, right, on the supply that we need or the stuff that we need, even supply chain issues, we actually buffer for it, and then we have time to react and do that. And so, case in point, like when the market froze last year, 2 years ago now, during COVID, we were able to actually still, because of fine credit ratings, we were able to actually one of the first ones to go to the market and borrow ahead of time before the market freezes, and so we can actually ride that through. I hope that answers your question, Steve.
Thank you, Paul. And there's another last question, and I think I can chime in with you on that.
Okay.
Because this is one of my favorite topic too. Always, how do you communicate effectively with your customer, and how you organize all your informations on many initiatives into the tailored conversation with the customer?
Okay. So first of all, most people may not know SMUD. Everything that we do, we have a 95% customer sat rate. Everything that we do, from connecting the meters to trimming your trees. So we have, and because we are a community-owned organization, we survey on all our transactions, but more importantly, we have about 1,300 community events that either our board or staff actually goes to. So we actually have what we call the voice of the customer. So we do detailed segmentation studies. We actually have listening sessions. We go out and work with NGOs, work with the community faith-based organizations to really understand the challenges the customer is actually facing, and how every action that SMUD takes, right, from our simple rate increase or the program that we are launching out, how does it actually impact that segment of customers? And then we do tailor our messages. Some would just love to connect with us online, digital, on our Facebook, on our Twitter, right, and on our TikTok. Some you still actually need to go and then talk to them. And so our whole community engagement group and our home sustainable community group, and then that's what we do. In fact, our Shine grant is really, during the pandemic, we doubled our what we call the Shine grant. Is really the money that we need to help those organizations that help those communities in need, those nonprofits during those difficult times, and how do we fund them to make sure that we're connected to those? Because sometimes, right, the people that lack the resources that really need to be heard doesn't have the resources to do that. So we are very, very conscientious in terms of having that out as part of our community outreach. So I think that's why you heard me talk about, even when we rolled out our 2030 zero carbon plan, we spent 6 months talking to the community, have different venues, right, from different groups, and go to churches, go to the neighborhood associations, because they want it differently. And this is in addition to what we normally do, right, which is our printed letter, our emails, and then our website. So, and I know you know that, Deepak, you help a lot of companies now keep that link together on your customer platform.
No, this is where I think, Paul, I love that, because always in our conversation, and I know it is connected, information, but you always been all the channels, in an integrated view, was always your way to connect with the people and the customer. And I'm being very open about this. I get very excited because, as SCW being number one globally, in the CX platform for the digital platform, one thing is technology. Second thing is the leaders like you who truly wants to take that, platforms and give that information, irrespective of those are digital in nature, those are actually manual connectivity, because end of the day, that information have to tailor, have to go in front of the people so that they understand what this means. And there is no better way. And we talked about it, like in last 2 years, the word changed to connect more and more digitally with the fine information, intelligent information in a connected world and integrated view. So I really love that, your vision for customer 360, grid 360, and this zero carbon 2030. I think we'll be end up talking otherwise, and what's going to happen, Laurel and Z Prime team is going to say, guys, please stop it now. We got for 70 minutes up, but thank you, Paul, for such an exciting session and such an informative and intelligent session. I love that talking to you always, Thank you. And thank you, Z Prime, Laurel, Jason, everybody for your time.
Thank you so much for, again, Deepak, and the SCW and Z Prime for the invitation. It's always a pleasure, sharing what SMUD is doing, also learning really what the industry is actually doing, and and more, I think more importantly, all of us need to do together to move us forward, because I think we're doing this because it's the right thing to do, and it's really imperative things for us to do. If not for us, for our kids, right, for the future generations.
For sure, sir. Thank you. Thank you,
All right.
Paul. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.